Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this edition of I almost said the Acting Bad broadcast. Welcome to the GASOCAST. Mass is not here, so I'm taking the lead on this. So it's going to be chaos. I don't even know if Lyndon and Blue can see themselves, but we're going to talk about names regardless. Um, let's get it started real quick with some housekeeping notes. The Gaso Fast Break newsletter every week. Lyndon, you're killing it, bro. Talk about what we can expect this weekend.
Lots of stuff from Cy Hoops from all over the place as we get more write-ups, more players have kind of announced themselves, and a lot of focus on the 2028 class this week in particular.
I think really like we cover so much basketball with tournament season. Once district starts, we can't be traveling as much. It's just hard to see a lot of games. So I'm excited for our Gasso gossip, and I think we're bringing the attributes back and doing all that fun content. So I can't wait for that. The showcase and bracket schedules. We have one more round after Christmas, and some would say it's the biggest round of all the holiday events. So I think it's pinned right now on our social media. So go check that out. Shout out to everybody that's using that. Blue, you've been great with that, hunting that down, creating PDFs. It's a lot. And like we talked about before, it's media season for the Gasso crew. The one thing about us with Gasso, what we're doing is obviously everybody knows us from running events, but during the high school season, I think I was telling this to y'all, we're watching a lot of basketball and we're learning about players that aren't even on some of these teams' grassroots teams yet. So they're gonna have tryouts, they're gonna have all this, but when it comes time for the grassroots season this spring, we're going to know all your players. So tapping with Gasso, we're getting a head start so that when you take the floor at Gassos or other events, we're going to know who's on your team and who's on your roster. So excited about that. So this past weekend, champions, another big weekend of championship basketball. Lyndon, take us through the names of winners.
Yeah, the big result from the weekend, where all three of us were at various points Thursday and Friday, was Fort Bend Marshall taking home the Cy Hoops Championship over Mansfield Summit. We'll talk a little bit more about them later on in the show. Another big result, Blue was over there on Saturday for the Diamondbacker. And Blue, you tell us a little bit about who took home the gold at the Diamondbacker?
Well, I was there on Friday, and then I came
Right.
back. So, um, we'll get that result here in a second.
It literally says it.
Oh, I mean,
We were
it's
just
Dallas Jesuit, dude.
we just wanted you to have some analysis, Blue. It's Dallas Jesuit. You were just
Oh, I
nailing
was
it.
like,
God.
on my end, it's really choppy. Like there's some technical difficulties, I guess, going on my end, and so I'm kind of
You
getting
look
every other
great on. I'm
word.
looking at X right now. You look great, Blue. Dallas Jesuit won the
Yeah.
Diamondbacker. We were trying to give Blue some.
So yes, the Diamondbacker. You know what? I will say this: the Diamondbacker it's eight, uh, 8-team event, and there's some really good teams. And going down there, I saw all 8 of those teams right there were teams that I hadn't seen before. So it was definitely worth the drive going from the Cy Hoops tournament down to San Antonio and then getting a Celsius guy uh, to lift me up through the rest of the Friday.
And we'll talk about him soon. Keep going, Lyndon.
Yeah.
Who else won some championship
Yeah.
this week?
Rockwall Heath winning the Cedar Hill Lions Club tournament with Caleb Turner, your MVP from that one. Highland Park going out to the Union Square up in Burke Burnett, beating Canyon Randall and taking home the gold out there. Some other notables: Liberty Hill wins the Glen Rose in a tight one over the host school in the championship game. Waco University won the Corsicana tournament. And then Huffman Hargrave, one of those, right there on the fringe of the top 10 in 4A, who's kind of made a loud start to this year, looking to move up if anybody should drop, wins the Navasota tournament. So that's our tournament results. And like we said, we'll have a plenty of talking points from the MT Rice, from the CBI, from the Allen, from all over the state for that, right after the holiday tournament round, the last one of the season in Texas.
And if we're missing anybody, that means you're watching right now. So feel free to comment below to let us know because we know there's a few more that we haven't touched on. But shout out to those champions. So moving on to our roundtable discussion this week. District advice for players. What approach? Just some thoughts on district for players and how to lock in. Blue, start us off.
I think this is a really good time to not reset, but to refocus in the sense of, there's something bigger right now to play for. As we go through tournament season and some of these teams are playing, up to 5 games on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then having to come back and get right back at it on a Monday to get ready for a Tuesday. The players, what's at stake here are district championships. There is playoffs berth. You're going to be split into small school, big school. I think right now, just to focus on winning and competing, because that also brings recruitment most of the time. So I just think that there's a lot going on right now that uh, that's going to help players just refocus, play the game, and get through it.
I agree. For me, it's the attention to detail. It's going to happen at the high school level in district. It's going to happen at the college level in conference. Um, Especially for players that aren't leading their teams in minutes, pay attention to the scout. Um, these high school coaches are salivating getting to district because they can focus on one task at hand, and that's a team on Tuesday and team on Friday usually. So when you're going through your shoot arounds or your walkthroughs, there's going to be tendencies on the other side of the other team that you're playing against that you need to take away whatever the best player's skill set is. And if you're fighting for minutes and you have an opportunity to dial in and execute the game plan, you're going to get on the court more and more. So it's what I'm right here looking forward to focusing on one game at a time. It's going to get slower. I mean, Lyndon, you and I played. It gets boring sometimes. It does, because it's like, all right, we want to play, we want to hurry up and play, but every Monday, then Wednesday and Thursday, you're getting ready for Friday. Just focus on the details and find ways to execute that game plan. Finish us off, Lyndon, on this thought.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that kind of dovetails right into my point, and that's, specifically talking to seniors out there, you're only guaranteed a certain amount of minutes left in your entire basketball high school career. If you're in an 8-team district, you got 14 district games. That's 448 minutes that you're guaranteed left. And whatever your main goal is, if it's to win a state championship, a district championship, to put yourself in the shop window to get recruited and go play at the next level, that's all you get. The only way to extend that clock is to play winning basketball and get yourself into the playoffs. So that's something that as a coach I love to preach to my players. Like, you only get X amount of minutes. You can't extend this unless you're successful. So do the right things, focus on on winning traits, and don't, it's, you got 2 months left. Put the distractions aside, focus on this, and do your best and see what comes out at the end of it.
Yeah, naturally, there's less games, so there's not as many game days, obviously. But we talk about the grind is going to pick up here, but embrace it, especially if you're a senior, because you're going to look back
Mhm.
at it when you're our age and be like, I miss those. I just miss everything about that. So, like you said, it's 2 months left. You can control your destiny here. So let's move on to my favorite segment, Celsius dudes. I'll get us started here. Lyndon, you and I were sitting there at the Cy Hoops, and it was the last game before we headed back. I was going to San Antonio, you were going back to Dallas, and we were watching Cy Falls, and I lean over and nudge you, and I'm like, "Hey, he's a freshman," and you were like, "What?" And we were talking about JD Humphries of Cy Falls, and as soon as I said that, he hits a three. We posted that. Lyndon, you posted that three, looking at his defender. And then he goes and jumps on a loose ball. And I'm like, oh, yeah. When I see a freshman at 6'4" with that frame, diving on a loose ball, making winning plays, that's definitely a Celsius guy. As we continue to update our scouting service, the 2028 class continues to really be impressive. And JD Humphries is one of those guys that when you're talking about making an impact on the varsity level, that's a bad dude. Blue, who is your Celsius guy?
You know, eh, Mine was for the Woodlands, and it was a freshman, Dejan Miller, and he had 24 points against Los Fresnos, and Los Fresnos are this these players that love to beat you down court, hit jumpers. I see a little smirk from Timmons, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. They'll share the ball, first open shot, it's going up. They want to beat you with some threes. But what Miller did was he was very composed as a freshman, only 6'4". Well, I say only because he was playing on the inside. But man, he was playing with bounce. He was getting little jumpers. He was rebounding, getting putbacks, and that's what you need when you kind of when you're going from a day of Cy hoops, a night of it, not sleeping well on Thursday night, waking up like at 4 o'clock, can't go back to sleep, having to watch a
Well,
couple more games at Cy hoops, and get to San
listen.
Antonio.
You texted me and Lyndon across the hallway. You got your own room, and you're gonna really be like, "Oh, didn't get a good night of sleep, fellas." I'm like,
Oh
"You got
man,
your own room.
hey,
Everything was set up for you to
I got
succeed."
two people with kids might realize this. I got two of them, and we usually are done eating dinner at 5:30, and the three of us went to go grab a dinner at 9 o'clock at night. That didn't settle well.
I feel you on that.
It kept
Um,
me up.
Lyndon, before you start this one, I need to say action because if we're gonna do a promo for this segment, it would be this guy's name most likely. So, the floor is yours. Action.
Yeah, I mean, if we're giving out awards this weekend, this guy might be Mr. Celsius across the state because every time you watch him, you don't know if he's going to hit 10 threes or just, he's just one of those guys who makes things happen on the court. And we were there at 9 a.m. for that Cy Creek and the Colony game, and Kabari Lewis just delivered, man. That is a really, really good performance that he and his teammate Jay Duncan delivered with it. I think they had 23 and 22 respectively to beat the Colony in that quarterfinal matchup. But this guy, he's everywhere. He makes like electric plays getting to the rim. He can pull up and shoot from as far out as he needs to, but he was just delivering. And then he came up with the winning plays down the stretch to get them a tough, hard-fought win against one of 5A's, state title contenders going into the year.
And with Kabari, I mean, you and I always we love watching him play. But he's one of those seniors we talk about now that he's fun to watch. He gets busy, he gets right to it. He's a Celsius guy, but he's also doing the things that it takes to win basketball games. And you like to see that next jump as a leader and a senior. Moving on to this next segment, battle tested teams. We're starting to get more and more data every single weekend. And as we head into district play, like you said, Blue, throw all this out the window. It's time to go reset and get to district play. And I'll start because I took a little bit of a different approach than y'all did with battle tested teams. I'm going to give some love to Dynamic Prep for a team that has, I think it's the Chipotle Nationals now. It's not Geico, but a team, Jermaine O'Neal leading that Dynamic Prep all over the country. But it says a lot when you play in Texas to take your show on the road nationally. Dynamics played Austin St. Michael's, San Antonio Brennan, and Allen. So when we're talking about battle tested, I mean, for Dynamic to get battle tested in Texas, then to go play national schedule like playing against Link, playing against Columbus out of Florida, Sunrise Christian, now on a 4-game winning streak outside of Texas. Shout out to Texas in general for giving Dynamic Prep all they can handle before they play their national schedule. So shout out to y'all, Dynamic. Blue, this was a good one.
Yeah, and before I lead into mine, the eye rolls of people that I came in contact with from San Antonio, wondering what happened to Brennan because they lost 2 games. I believe they went to Maryland. It's okay. They'll be just fine. Antonio Brennan, South Grand Prairie, Fort Bend Ridgepoint, C.E. King, San Antonio Johnson. I mean, these are high-profile names that we all had in our top 25 at the beginning of the year, and some of them are still there. So it's not like they're 12-7. You need to worry, But this will plenty. This is plenty of great teams that they played that even they lost the lead, and then they're going to go into their district, and they're going to be battling Friendswood for that district title. And so Friendswood has had a pretty decent schedule themselves with only 2 losses, but Iowa Colony, they've been there, and they're going to lean on this experience, not just this past few months, but also from the past year.
And I watched them beat the Colony. I watched them up early on Brennan. Brennan had to make a comeback and handle that. So you're talking about some losses, but you're talking about a team that knows how to win as well. So that's a great recipe. Lyndon, who is your battle tested team?
Yeah, sticking in 5A in the Houston area, Fort Bend Marshall, we got to talk about them because they're 20-2 this year. Second place at the McDonald's Invitational, only losing to Brennan, like you said, and then winning the Cy Hoops this weekend. Ian Lowe has been a machine. Kevin Sargent's been all over the place, making waves as a senior. Um, this team, like they have, it's not like the 20 wins have come against cupcakes either, because they've beaten Ellison, Bel Air, Geyer, South Grand Prairie, um, Judson, CE King, Mansfield Summit in that championship game. They've got a ton of ranked wins. And so, if we're the CFP committee, they're definitely going to stay in that number one seed when our next rankings update based on this action.
No, absolutely. And luckily with Texas high school basketball, a couple losses doesn't keep you out of anything. So whether you running the table, you've taken some L's, um, the road to Alamo Dome is still open for everybody. So keep that in mind. So as we get further and further
Michael, if
along,
I can interrupt you real quick, Michael, I just got a text from a friend of mine that said, "I love the gray shirt with the Gasso on it."
nobody said
There
that.
you go.
Nobody
Zoom
said
in,
Yes,
that.
zoom in.
I have proof.
No,
I
no.
will send it to you.
All right, story time, real quick. So, I'm shout out Fabletics. I got this Q-zip here, and there was a $5 extra option to embroider something. So I'm like, oh, duh, Gasso, but I thought it was gonna be huge, and it's the smallest font ever. And if y'all know me, y'all know that I don't like talking a lot, and I don't like people in my space. And the amount of times people have walked up to me and got close just to see the logo, we're gonna have to figure this out. But for the show, you can see the Gasso popping, but it didn't come out, and I've gotten a lot of laughs from the Gasso guys. So we're gonna go back to the drawing board with some Gasso fits, but I'm gonna come back better than ever. But Blue's bringing up some gossip. I doubt somebody texted him that, but shout out to you if you did. As we move further and further into the season, there's less and less tournament games like we were talking about. We're not as in the road as much. The Gasso gossip is back on GASOCAST. We're always on social media. We have the pulse to what's going on. Blue, who's your Gasso gossip player of the week?
This one is Cash Good from San Marcos.
I saw
And
this one.
honestly, this one fell in my lap because this was from head coach Dan Miller. He said, "Hey, take a look at my guy. Like I know that y'all have seen him before, but don't forget about him." And so I really appreciate how proactive Dan Miller was, and maybe he knew today was Tuesday and there was a chance, right? So why not put him on? And so he goes out and scores 37 against Del Valle, and he has 4 steals, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And Dan even told me, I said, give me a little bit more. And he said that he was doing a lot of scoring off penetration. He did 2 huge three-pointers in the fourth quarter. And he said, but this is stuff that he's been doing all year. We got a chance to see him over in San Antonio in late September. And I just think the momentum that he's carried. Also, he's been on the varsity for 4 years. He hasn't started for 4 years, but he's been on varsity for 4 years. He's nearing the all-time record of wins for a varsity player. So we look for him to get over 100 wins this year total. And so, just kind of keep up the good work. And this is what we're talking about. We're going to find you and we're going to talk about you.
I agree. He had a great end to that summer with hard work and a great fall with that San Marcos team. Good to see him putting up big boy numbers. For me, Deuce Hunt, Duncanville is one of those teams that we could have also put in the battle tested segment. But they go out to Utah. Shout out to Glenn Smith and the Hoop Fest for taking that show all over now. I think Glenn's in the Bahamas. So shout out to those teams there in the Bahamas right now. But Deuce had 19 against Utah Prep. And Utah Prep has the number 1 player in the country. Yeah, one of the baddest dudes that we've seen in years. But to have 19 on that stage, he's one of those 2027s when we're not quite there yet, but rankings are, people keep asking, hey, when is that 2027 ranking coming out? And there's dudes fighting for position, and Deuce has been on a tear. The lefty jumper looks so pure, getting to the rim. I saw some of those highlights, but 19 on a big level game like that, only bodes well for Deuce and that Duncanville team because they can beat you in so many different ways. Lyndon, I want to see what you come up with here because I see what you wrote on. I've seen what you wrote on the sheet here. Who's your Gasso gossip?
I mean, have you all seen the numbers that Javen Colbert's putting up? Like, honestly,
They're video game numbers. He's almost
that
he's
40.
yeah, he's one more game away from being on an active bad segment for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing my career stuff. 40 points, 47 points, 51 points, and then they're playing 5A, 6A. Like they're playing a tough schedule, and he's still doing those numbers. You know, very, very excited that I'll be at the small school Whataburger or CBI to see them play right after the break because I've got to see it for myself. He got the Troy offer recently, and I think that he can continue to put up these kind of numbers. There's no reason to say that more aren't on the way for him.
I agree. I will be at that game also as well with you that morning in a few weeks. So up to this point, I keep talking about the data we've seen, and we've watched so many teams. I don't want to talk about the lists of games and teams we've seen because I think I'm third place out of the three of us right now. So I don't really want to get into those numbers. But there are a ton of teams and numbers and games. Up to this point, what's your game of the year, Blue?
Well, I think it's just fresh on probably all of our minds is
Oh,
the
it's a good one.
Jets and Cy Woods from last Thursday night, and I look at this a little bit differently because we start the Cy Woods tournaments in the home gyms, right? And off campus. I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a play-in game because everybody wants to go to the Berry Center. Everybody wants to see the us as media and others and the fans that show up. They want to see naturally the winner side of things, right? Who made it through that first round, and it took two overtimes to get to see Judson finally put Cy Woods to bed, but think of the last minute
Yeah.
of that game, guys. We saw I believe it was like three 3-pointers. We saw uh, Judson having to hit a couple, Cy Woods hitting a couple miracle shots. You get into overtime. Cy Woods had off penetration, I think, off of a timeout and lets the ball go, hits off the backboard, rims out, goes to a second overtime, and then Judson just kind of takes over because of some getting to the free throw line to knock down some free throws. But it just is a different atmosphere when you're just kind of trying to get past that first game. Judson having to go to Cy Woods' home court, and there was no blowout there. There was a tough fought game that really was entertaining for us to see.
And for two teams, the winner gets the number one team in 5A in the second round, which, regardless of how that went for Judson, those are the games you want. So you can kind of see Cy Woods and Judson knowing how that bracket was probably going to shape up, knowing the opportunity they had because you just want to play against the best. Lyndon, talk about this game right here.
Yeah, it's still the best for me just because it was kind of similar where, it's down to the wire. There's multiple threes being traded. It's Denton Geyer and Summer Creek back at the Pasadena McDonald's Invitational. Jordan Lowry, who just committed to UTA, goes crazy, has 20 plus, has Summer Creek into the lead. Reggie Rito tweaks an ankle and then is out for a little bit, but comes back in, guns firing, hits 3 threes. At one point in the fourth quarter, Silas Rodriguez goes on a 7-0 run. There's so much happening. DeMaurice Pritchett also had 25 in that game. And then Rito walks it off with a 3 at the buzzer. I mean, it was all over the place. It was electric, and I loved it.
Yeah, when you were like in our group chat when those type of things happen, like a lot of times we're all in different gyms, so we're giving live analysis. You're like Rito game winner, and then you put the clutch shots up right away, and yeah, it felt like he shot that one to the moon. For
Yeah.
my game of the year, Lyndon, we both went to this one. Shout out to Snoop Johnson's event, Duncanville Kimball. When I'm thinking about game of the year so far, when both teams win, regardless of who won or lost, that's a big recipe. But back and forth, the Duncanville Kimball game, just high level performances all over the place. It was just one of those special games to see two storied DFW teams with a lot of firepower going back and forth. Mari Wesley with the game winner coming back from injury, I think for his first game. But you play this game over and over again, it's just going to be back and forth and just going to come down to the wire like it did. So for now, that's my game of the year. We still have a lot of basketball left, and when we're looking at these rankings that we do for team rankings, I have no idea which way it's going to go. So there's going to be some sleeper game of the years in district, and there's some district matches I'm already looking at for tonight that are like, oh, there's so many games that have the possibility to be really, really special. Shout out to Mass. He brought up this new segment that we started last week. It's recruit him, straight up. Like, who's a prospect that you want to advocate for on this live stream right now? Blue, who is it?
I'm gonna go Elijah Favela. I think that we're looking at a two-sport athlete who was the quarterback for the past 2.5 years at Judson, which is a very hard task to begin with. But he's settling back into basketball, and just watching him, the touch that he has from the 15-foot line all the way out past the arc. You know what? He did some things out there. There was a little trickery from Noe Cantu. He got position in the paint, set up, posted up his defender, try to get some little touches to go inside the paint there. And I think that this is just really, his ability to go from the field onto the court. His transition is so quick to do, and I think that it's time to kind of look at him and go, all right. We know that he really loves the game of basketball. His dad was a San Antonio Star back in the day, and so now we get to see Elijah really taking over here and being a big part of this offense for Judson, and I think that that's going to translate also into college. And so Elijah's somebody that people need to start taking a hard look at and really go after him recruiting wise.
I definitely agree. Lyndon, I love this name. Who's your recruit him player of the week?
Yeah, for me, sticking to the 2025 class for Summit because Theo Brannon and Caleb Richard both had strong weekends in front of us. But Ian Seda, I mean, he starts out the game with a 6-0 run of his own against who were they playing? Who was that game against? Oh, Summer Creek.
Yeah.
Summer Creek. Against Summer Creek. And then, he's tough as nails. Everything in his airspace is his rebound. He goes up and gets it with two hands. Love to see that from, somebody who is tough, but also can operate a little bit as a wing. If he gets a step on the perimeter and he's going to go in and slash and go finish, I think that he's somebody who college coaches need to take a long, hard look at because with that length, that physicality, and especially his touch around the inside, I think there's definitely something there at the next level.
For me, Cy Falls has another big man. Surprise, surprise. Nash Beard, 6'8". Great hands, great feet. You can throw it into him, back to the basket. We also, while we were watched him jump a passing lane and go coast to coast for a dunk. Another team, Cy Falls, always figures it out. They're always going to be a hard out in playoffs. And they have another big coming through that program that's going to be taught how to play the right way and be super, super productive. So Nash Beard, y'all need to recruit him. Texas Hoopers at the next level. Y'all take this one over. Somebody's at my door real quick. Go ahead and start.
Here, I kind of looked a little bit at some past databases. I said, you know what? I want to look to see what, Mason Jones, he went to Allen High School. He was one of our top guards in the class of, I believe it was 2022. And he's at Midwestern State now. And currently he's averaging 30 minutes a game. He's at just about 19 points a game, nearly 5 rebounds, and hitting 43% of his 3-point shots. And it's no coincidence that Midwestern is having a great season this year. And that's, when you look at the numbers, here's one of the reasons why.
My bad, guys. I'm back. This is part of just live Emmy Award-winning broadcast up here. I'll hop in really quick because Jordan Mason, University of Illinois, Chicago. I love to see a kid when he transfers to fit right into the next place because it sometimes doesn't happen that way. So for Jordan, his last game, he played 40 minutes. That seems pretty good, right? Can't take him off the court, averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, second on the team in steals. just one of those guys that's making an impact. And when you hit the transfer portal, you better make sure the next place really loves you. And it sounds like UIC really does love you. Lyndon, did you go already, or are we done with the show?
No,
Oh,
no, I've got
cool,
to
cool.
finish it up here. Yeah. For me, um, been watching a ton of JUCO, getting our scouting service filled out for that. Watched Dallas Northlake against Brookhaven on Synergy over the weekend, and Andon Holmes, somebody that's familiar. We saw him a ton in the summers with 3D. 8 of 10 from the field, 21 points, was just all over the place, being productive and making things happen for Northlake as they got the win over um, over Brookhaven, and that sets up a big one. I believe it is in a few days against Richland. So, going to have my eyes on that one as well. Going to be pretty exciting stuff for the small JUCO ranks that I've been able to cover this year.
Yeah, Lyndon's crushing all of our JUCO coverage for the scouting service, so he's really tied in and dialed in. I will say this: shout out to Lyndon and Blue. They can't see themselves right now, and that's a big thing when we're live because you want to see everybody like nodding their head, agreeing with your points. They're probably just talking straight blindly, hoping that whatever they're saying is making sense. But whenever I take the lead on these things, it's going to be chaos. Tomorrow or 2 days from now, our newsletter, it's going to be really, really big time. So looking forward to that. Huge district matchups all over the state of Texas. Excited to see kind of who starts to take that first leap in district. So until next week, I'm IFM Hoopers. Shout out to Lyndon, shout out to Blue, and we will see you next time.